Our Frontiers of Biology project is on bionics, which is essentially the application of biology to 21st century technology and engineering. Bionics are most commonly made of titanium and silicone, and they are not limited to just prosthetics and implants. The major concept of bionics is signaling. A person can use signals to send from their brain and simulate a physical response in the prosthetic. A good example of this would be a patient thinking to grab a book that might be on a table. The motor cortex would send a chemical stimulus to nerve stubs where the prosthetic receptors are. There is a complex process of rearranging the nerves to correspond with parts of the prosthetic, and electrodes attached to muscles relay the information to the brain. There are also different ways to grab something, which makes the process more complicated. There are algorithms that are inserted to dictate to the prosthetic how to grab the object and how hard to grab it. As mentioned before, cochlear implants are one of the central applications of bionics. This breakdown exemplifies how the bionic element simulates a natural biological reaction in the human body. When you hear something, your body naturally sends electrical signals to your hearing nerve. In the case of the implant, the same electrical signals are sent in the hearing nerve, just from an artificial source. There is a misconception that bionics can only apply to those who have experienced amputations, but bionics covers the universal idea of sending stimuli. Similarly to how electrodes communicate with the motor cortex to stimulate emotion, electrodes also interact with the optic nerve to generate an image in the brain picked up by a video camera. Continuing with the concept of optical bionics, this diagram represents the paracrine signaling involved in spreading a stimulus from the bionic lens to processors in the brain. Note that there is negative feedback involved in the signaling, which communicates to the ganglion, amacrine, bipolar, and horizontal cells that the message has been received, prompting them to stop sending the signal. In addition to the fabrication of stimuli, bionics applies to biology in a whole other aspect: positive feedback and enzymes. The enzyme glucose dehydrogenase is involved in metabolism in the human body, and oftentimes there are irregularities or deficiencies in this enzyme. By triggering positive feedback in this enzyme, microscopic bionic compounds can accelerate metabolism, as seen in this diagram. Bionics can improve lives on the macroscopic and the microscopic level. More than any other field of science, bionics can most directly improve the lifestyle of disadvantaged human beings. Between hearing or sight implants and prosthetics, bionics can offer a second chance to people who were born with mutations or have experienced injury. As biologists, the study of bionics may seem rather irrelevant. At first glance, it seems more applicable to mechanics and engineering than biology. In fact, the use of bionic products relies on some of the most fundamental biological concepts like signal transduction, positive feedback, and enzymatic function. When this field was first introduced, it was an out-of-this-world, small-scale study. Indeed, bionics were not initially affordable and were extremely limited. However, in 2016, bionics were becoming more and more relevant in government funding, and treatments are being made and prosthetics are becoming more affordable and accessible. Because this field is becoming more and more popular and life-changing with time, a deeper understanding of this topic is necessary for biologists and all Americans. Biomimetic scientists are beginning to make a shift in the application of bionics. Instead of focusing solely on bionics for those with handicaps, they are shifting more towards general applications of bionics. Bionic leaves will be able to harness solar energy to split water molecules and harness hydraulic energy more effectively than in photosynthesis. These leaves manipulate the Calvin cycle to produce isopropanol as opposed to glucose. Very soon, this isopropanol fuel will be of commercial use. People with bionic limbs now have the ability to process textures and sensations. The diagram illustrates how electric signals are again introduced into the central nervous system to do so. Leukopolysomes are organic compounds that will mimic white blood cells, except they will be programmed to target specific pathogens. By 2022, artificial kidneys the size of baseballs will pump out toxins without outside power and will monitor electrolyte levels in patients with deficiencies. There are even talks of vision displays that send stimuli to the brain at night, resulting in night vision. Between organically produced white blood cells, prosthetic body parts, and artificial fuel-generating leaves, bionics is clearly a diverse and limitless field. Journalist Eric Soft, upon surveying of scientists, even went on to conclude that bionics will continue to the point that prosthetics will one day be obsolete. This field is an expressive one which can address a wide range of societal, medical, and environmental issues. Simple elements of biology can be enhanced and studied to create truly revolutionary products.